everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is great to be back with you again today. I am Renee Carter,
Hey everybody, I'm Glenn Thomas.
and this is Hard Talk Live.
Talk Live.
That's right, Hard Talk Live.
Yeah, man. So good to be back on a Tuesday. Feels like we've been gone for a while. I'm not sure why. Um, Maybe I don't know why. But
I know
nonetheless,
why. I know why. We
oh yeah,
weren't
what
here
was that?
last week. You were here last week. I
You
wasn't
want
here
to get right?
last week.
Oh, okay. No,
And then we didn't come on last Tuesday afternoon. Yeah.
makes sense. Well, today is a good topic. So it's the topic about the thing that I think people mostly feel as though cannot happen. Like it's just impossible to happen. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right now. Um, the topic for today is going to blow your mind. Some of you are going to believe that it's not possible, but we're talking about today separating with love. Separating with love. Separating with love. Is it possible to break up with somebody with love? Is it possible to fire somebody, resign somebody, retire somebody with love? And I'm real excited about this topic today because one of the topics that I talk about actually in my book is about love, and love is that people have a right to separate from you. People have a right to leave you, and they have a right to take on their journey in the way that they feel is best for them, but they also, you have a right to go out on your journey in the way, in the best way, that in the way that's best for you. And how, we have to trust, and for me it's God's will. So this is going to be exciting to talk about how we can separate from people, showing care and concern for them and compassion, and also supporting them while we do so. So Glenn, all you.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about this because I think some of the more what we may seem non-traditional or unconventional or audacious types of acts in the workplace, like we don't talk about them enough.
Mhm.
I think separating with love, when we speak to leaders who have terminated people before, who've had experienced that, and those who've received it, who've been terminated, it's just not a it's not a good feeling. Listen, I've not been terminated, but I've definitely been nudged in the direction like this doesn't seem like the place for you, right? And and it didn't feel loving. It didn't feel good. It felt condescending. It feels like you're less than. It's a feeling, especially when you have on a performance level exceeded expectations, and that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Ooh. And then they say it's not you, it's
It's
me.
me, right? Yeah, we know all about the "it's not you, it's me,"
It's
right?
not you, it's
No,
me.
it's not you. And see, listen, people would want to draw a parallel between personal relationships, but the difference in a personal relationship and a professional relationship, as it relates to separating with love, is the organization is in a power position. When you're in a personal relationship, there is no, there may be power dynamics, but there's not one person that like owns more equity in the relationship than the other. In an organization, professional relationship, the organization is in a position to terminate, no matter what the reasons, and depending on what state you live in, it's it's employee is not employees' rights. It's basically states' rights. The organization has the will to terminate at will, actually, which is the terminology.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of the behaviors that should exist when we separate with love in the workplace.
Hmm.
And it may seem kind of like, oh, that's not really rocket science, but I think we need to really call them what they are so we can actually process how they play out. The first behavior when we think about separating with love, when we have to terminate someone, to me is that we must first and foremost be patient. anytime we are going to make a decision to one impact someone's life and livelihood, regardless of the circumstance or regardless of the reasons, we should pause and be patient. Now, patience doesn't mean, let's string this person along, let's not tell them the truth, let's wait until, we can just send in an email. No, patient means to actually dedicate time to your pause to reflect on actually what's about to transpire as you move forward to more than likely terminate somebody, separate.
Mm-hmm.
When we're patient before terminating, we are demonstrating for ourselves, first and foremost, and ultimately, hopefully for others, even though they may not see it that way, is that we are being loving. Because when we are loving, first and foremost, we strive to be patient. Patient is a key attribute of being a loving human being.
But also patient in the communication, right? So, when we are telling people that we are separating from them, that's a very hard blow. And so your ex being patient in how they respond to you when you've told them this is also key into showing love, because that patience comes from compassion.
Definitely. Well, I mean, listen, patience before you even make the decision. But then, obviously, if you make the decision to terminate someone, to separate from them, doing it with love means that I'm going to be patient in my thought process. So, how this
Mhm.
conversation is going to happen, and is also what needs to be, what needs to happen before even the conversation does happen. Right? Being patient enough to think through the circumstances by where this is going to happen, how the conversation will play out. What do I need to be equipped with as the questions will roll in? Um, all those types of elements of a termination.
Mhm.
To separate with love means to first fully be patient and take a pause, and then step by step figure out how will this unfold, taking into consideration the person you're terminating is a
Mhm.
person with a life and a livelihood, that we are about to separate them from our organization. Love says that we first and foremost are patient. The second behavior, I would say, and feeling and behavior as you begin as this begins to unfold would be empathy.
Mhm.
Listen, maybe you've never been terminated from somewhere, but maybe you have.
Mhm.
But if you haven't, empathy, especially if you haven't, is going to go a heck of a long way, because placing yourself in someone's shoes, really trying to understand and figure out how they're going to feel. One, you can't fully do it, no matter how much you try. But empathy says that this is going to be possibly a life-changing event for this person. Let me think about how I would feel if I was in that position. How would that make me feel? How would I want this to unfold? Like,
Mhm.
what are the questions I may have? As we empathize with someone that we're about to separate from us, it demonstrates an act of love, that
Mhm.
you would first pause and then put yourself in their shoes before you do anything, because understanding that this could be you,
Mhm.
it could turn around. I've seen it happen, right? I've
Mhm.
seen where people have been asked to terminate others, and then they in turn were actually terminated themselves, right?
Sexism.
It was a massive layoff, right? And we need you to go terminate some people before we terminate you, right?
Like
So
that, I can't imagine being in human resources during COVID. Like I had a friend who that happened to. Like
Yes,
during COVID, human resources people, my heart truly goes out to you because I can't even imagine that you were being terminated as you were terminating others.
correct. So as we pause and take that first pause, empathize, and then the last would be perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look at this bigger picture of sorts. We're not just terminating somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? In many cases, people connect their purpose and their value with their job. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying what we know to be true is people connect purpose and value to their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a perspective and understanding what is about to happen when we separate with someone, that the words that are coming out of our mouth, no matter what we say, may land in a very harmful and hurtful way, then we're going to exacerbate a very negative experience,
Right.
right? And so the disclaimer here is that terminating anyone is not a pleasant experience, period, for anyone involved. Obviously, ultimately for the person who's being terminated. But we can make it a loving experience, even if the person who's being terminated doesn't feel it instantaneously, right?
Right.
Obviously, if you're going through a termination, you're not really processing love at that moment.
No.
But just like in a personal relationship, love doesn't hit everybody at the same time. So just because someone doesn't receive it at the time that you are exhibiting it, doesn't mean they can't process later on and reflect loving behaviors that may have happened. Pause, be empathetic, and have perspective in that order allows you to exhibit love in a way that hopefully when someone receives that, if not in that moment, they're able to reflect that that's what happened, because people get terminated for all types of reasons.
Right. And we talked a few weeks ago when we were talking about from sourcing to separation. We were talking about, the way we separate from people from the time that we hire them, or even from the time that we're sourcing out to look for them, that we pursue them for the position, to the time that we separate from them, that this is about who we are, our identity as an organization. And what you need to remember is the way you leave someone is that last memory of what they have of who you are. They're not going to remember all the things that happened in between. They're not even going to, well, they probably are going to remember two things. They're going to remember from the time they got hired to the time you let them go. Their entire career before you, with you, will flash before their eyes. But what we were talking about 2 weeks ago was just about making sure that the way we separate from them is with intention, with the intention of extending the values of our company. So if our intention is people first, when we build the foundation of our organization, then the way we separate from them will be people first and will have a loving effect on them as they move forward.
Definitely. I mean, from the time someone enters your space to the time they leave you, it should be intentional with love. I mean, and I think it sounds great in meetings, it sounds great in retreats, but it's difficult for organizations to really grab a hold of this idea that love is just damn good business, right? And it's not difficult per se just because it's non-traditional. It's difficult because we've been programmed and trained otherwise.
Right.
And so what we're saying is no, you should welcome people into your organization with love, and you should separate with them um, with love. Right now, people say, well, we need to welcome people in with open arms. We give all this fanfare. We do announcements and we celebrate them and we acknowledge them and we shower them with all this love and gifts and all, but when something happens and it's time to separate, involuntary or otherwise, it's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
It's the celebration kind of goes out the door. It's to no fanfare. It's not love.
Right.
It becomes very, and most of us experience this very kind of like breakup-ish when you and your boyfriend or girlfriend. Like it's kind of like it's not, you don't really talk a lot on social media about it anymore. It's kind of you just moved on. Like it's
Yes.
underneath. And what I will say is the way you break up with somebody shows me who you are.
It defines your character. I was just about to say that there's a quote I wrote in my book that says, character is not evaluated by who you are in the dark. I mean, who you are in the light. Character is evaluated by who you are in the dark. It's not evaluated by who you are in the light. It's who you are in the dark. Look, it's real easy to celebrate new talent. You get a new person into your organization. It's so easy to celebrate new talent. You're excited. You don't know what to expect. They ain't messed up yet. They ain't pissed you off much. Nope. They ain't done. They haven't been humanized yet. They are just the glory that just joined the workforce so that you can make your life easier. And when they don't make your life easier and you've decided, well, we've struggled for a year. Listen, you got to celebrate them out the door. You got to celebrate them even in the separation because, look, at the end of the day, everyone that comes into your company adds value. They may not, some add more than others. But even if they mess up all the time, one thing that they did show you was what happens when you mess up. So now you're prepared for that, right? So we just have to, make sure that we're celebrating people, all the way throughout, because at the end of the day, they're not just your workers, they're human beings, and they do have a purpose on this earth. Once you've been assigned to them, though, it is your job to ensure that they get there. That doesn't mean they need to stay with you to do it. That just means that it's your job to help them find at some point on their journey. If you're it, then you need to help them find that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's the definition of resilient love. When people ask, what's resilient love? It sounds so good. Like it sounds such like a,
It's called forgiveness, folks. It don't sound that good because y'all, if it was, y'all be doing it easier.
Yeah, we gotta terminate you or we gotta nudge you out the business. Like, honesty is a great start. People say, well, reliable. There's only certain things we can see. I'll tell you this right here. When you start in the organization, when you start calculating what you need to say, what you can't say, when you have to terminate somebody, you did something wrong. I'm just telling people what it is. Like I love being on this side of the fence. I'm just gonna tell you like it is. Like,
and you know what? I'm gonna let you go on with that because I'm gonna need to grab this. So I'm gonna need you to go on with that. I'm gonna need to grab this.
What you gonna grab? Okay, go ahead. Are you gonna grab the book?
No, I need to grab your voice.
I don't know.
Video.
Okay. Huh?
Video.
The video.
What's my job?
Oh, go ahead.
I want you to keep talking about that because I want you to keep talking about that so I can snatch this off the video.
Oh yeah, for sure. So look, I got so lost, y'all. That was a real live moment.
Let's not ruin the moment.
So look, so So this thing about where companies talk about, listen, they're only, HR comes in and, we can't do this, we can't say that, we can't email, be mindful of what you say. Listen, when you are being calculated about how you communicate to people who have chosen to show up and work with you and work for you and put their time in and their energy in. And now, for whatever reason, it's separation time. Now, all of a sudden, you get tight-lipped because there's certain things you don't want to say. You don't want to be liable for certain. Look, when you're being calculated, you're being manipulative. You're manipulating folks when you're being calculated. And when we talk about manipulation and love and the difference, and when you say we're not manipulating, and no, let's just call it what it is. When people leave your organization and you get calculated, that means you're manipulating. When you get tight-lipped and all the fanfare has gone, all the air has left the bubble, and now all of a sudden, it's all stern voices and stern emails. It's manipulation. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to be in the manipulation space. No matter how much you pay someone, nobody wants to be manipulated at a place where they choose to show up at. In any type of relationship, you ask anyone in the world, are you going to choose to show up to a relationship where people are intentionally manipulating you? I would say that the answer would be no. I would say that the answer would be no. The one difference, again, between the personal and the professional relationship is that the professional relationship is giving you compensation. And because of such, organizations feel as though you are privileged enough to manipulate people. I'm hurting feelings. I don't care. I'm hurting feelings. I ain't listen. And there's leaders in organizations right now that know full well that I'm telling the doggone truth. You don't agree with it either, but because you're in a position where, listen, you don't want to say anything, you don't want retaliation happening, you don't want to be the retribution happening, you go along with the program. But the reality of it is that I'm speaking to folks right now. Somebody's hearing this on the replay and saying, that's where I work. That's where I work. The reason why it's difficult to love people out of the organization is because you're manipulating them.
You made them feel less than.
You're making them feel less than.
You attach strings to their way out to you by telling them that they need to sign this document, to be quiet about what happened in here.
It's conditional.
It's conditional. You passive aggressive as you talking to them. You being sarcastic and demanding. You being a bully. You put your position out front so that they can see the position before they see you, and you are comparing them to others as they walk out the door, letting them believe that they are less than.
Listen, the reality of it.
That's what you do to a person, to a human being.
The reality is that let me. I'm gonna actually cross out one of my earlier statements. It's not hard to separate with love. It's just that you won't separate with love.
Right. You won't. Because you'll say, well, this is just who I am. That justifies it.
It's because it means admitting to something that will reflect on your character as an organization. It means being contrite. It means actually doing something that you should be doing in the first place, and that's being of service to others, even in the worst of moments.
Even in the worst of moments. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you about something. Now, a lot of women on here are going to call me crazy because I'm going to say this. I'm going to tell this little story right quick. And this is not even about separating from a job. This is about separating from a person. This is about finding out that the person that you've been with for 9 years cheated on you, and you telling them with all sincerity in your heart, you deserve someone that can trust you. And I deserve someone I can trust.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you less than. You have some amazing qualities, but there's something about this relationship that causes you to be dishonest. And I'm okay with that. And it's also okay for us to move on, like from it,
Yeah.
and be okay. And when you separate with people by saying that you're an amazing person, these are the awesome qualities that you hold, and you deserve to be in a place or a position where you can be where what you offer can be valued and seen, because that's what they need, then you are then that's why we're going to need to move forward, on our journey, and you just need to move forward on yours. Like, you can say that, and you can tell them, I will help you get to where you need to be.
Yeah, and look, I mean, like I said, the disclaimer is that it's never easy.
Never
Even
easy.
when you do all that you feel you can do, if it ever gets easy, when it's easy, it's a problem.
When it's easy, it's a problem. And
When
when it's easy, your character hasn't truly been tested.
when it's comfortable, it's a problem. When it's easy, it's a
Mhm.
problem. And
Mhm.
and 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 to that point, what do we do up until that point? You start asking yourself, because the pause actually is also about reflection. The pause is about also saying, what did we do up until this point,
Mhm.
right? Like, what did we do? How did we contribute um, to this happening? That's what the pause also is about. It's not just about the other person, right?
Mhm.
And so if you're not pausing, then you're not providing yourself an opportunity to actually have some introspective time,
Mhm.
right? It's not about blaming, but it's about being honest.
Mhm.
And how many leaders do that? How many
How
people do
many?
that when it comes to terminating someone, to separating with someone?
Mhm.
Separating with love is what happens in the end of a cycle. But separating with love can't happen if you're not leading with love during the journey, right?
Yep.
If you're not welcoming people with love, if you're not leading with love, nurturing that relationship with love, you know, it's difficult to separate with love when you have not been loving the person, right?
Yep.
Like, it's hyper difficult. It's difficult no matter what. But if you've been loving the person throughout the journey, it's not that it's easier. It's just that it's not hard. And there's a difference. There's a difference between something, right? Meaning that's not easier, but it's not hard. Okay. Because you have been loving them throughout. The question for leaders and organizations ultimately is that you have to know that the way you're loving or not loving people from your organization is crafting the culture of your organization.
It is crafting the culture, because, like we said 2 weeks ago, they will talk about you.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
would be a shame too that you spend all that time cultivating, great character, and building and cultivating great cultures in your organization, and then you let a person go, and the next thing you know, you're dirt because of the way you acted behind closed doors. You know,
Yeah. People are telling stories at all times about what's happening within the organization. The question is, what type of stories are they telling? And, when they leave, again, where no matter the circumstances, people tell the stories of their experience. And after a while, people believe them no matter what they're saying, right?
right?
If you hear something enough, people will believe you. So again, separating with love doesn't start at the end. It starts at the beginning and the during.
And the
It's
during. That's
yeah.
right. Separating with love starts with the end and begin, and the during, and the yeah, it starts in the beginning and the during. All right. Well, we're coming to an end to today's episode.
And with
Glenn,
love.
with
Yep.
love, separate with love.
Yep.
Glenn, do you have any final thoughts this afternoon? I mean, this afternoon.
This morning, this afternoon. Yeah. That's listen. If you don't check yourself, you're gonna wreck yourself, gotta go back old school. Check your no. I don't want to get billed for saying too many copyright infringement. Yo, that seriously, no matter where you are, you don't have to have an organizational reconstruction to be a leader that demonstrates love through separation. You can start by exhibiting it yourself. You don't have to tell everybody, you don't have to send out an email to everybody to tell them that you're going to start separating people from the organization with love. When if you have to terminate someone, you can do it silently, quietly. You can exhibit it and let people see it in action. You can pause, take your time. Let people know, when we're going to pause, we're going to think about how we got here and so forth, and how this is going to unfold, and demonstrate some empathy, and have some perspective in the long run. Ultimately, again, these are all choices. Every day we have a chance when we wake up in the morning, if we're so blessed, and then we have choice. We have choice to show up as a transactional leader, which again is a part of work. But ultimately, we have a choice to be a transformational leader, which unfortunately is not a large part of work. Transformation means opening your heart and being kind, and showing goodness to people, even in the worst of times and the worst of moments. And if you make that choice, people will see it. And trust me, being a loving, caring, compassionate, empathetic human being is hell of a lot more contagious than the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So go pause, go be empathetic, and go get some perspective before you separate with somebody in your organization.
Right.
Do it with love.
Do it with love. And I want to just say, separate the way you want to be remembered, because that'll be their last memory of you in their organization. Be intentional and practice love all along, and then the separation won't be so hard to do with love. That's it. That's all I have for you.
That was it.
And we want to thank you all for sharing this space with us every day, every Tuesday at 11:30, and every afternoon at 6:30. We love you so much. And once again, I am Renee Carter.
And I'm Glenn Thomas.
And we are Hard Talk Live.
Hard Talk Live. Holla, holla.
We love you and see you soon.
Holla, 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 holla. J-Rock.
Thank you, Jamila. We love you and anybody else that was out there.
Peace and Middle East.